All right, here we are. We're going to do a recap of the week 2 action. How you doing today, Mario?
Doing good, John. What about you?
I'm doing pretty good. I mean, I thought there was some exciting football this last weekend. I mean, I'd have NFL Red Zone, which I don't know if I can say that on here, but that second week of the season, the early games, it's the biggest slate of early games of any day all year. I mean, maybe you might get a little bit better late in the year, but I'm not sure. But there's like 10 games going on the early games. I was watching Red Zone and it was just constantly going from game to game to game. So many games. There's only 4 afternoon games.
Yeah, it sure
So,
is.
so when we got to the afternoon, I wasn't such switching. But yeah, I mean, there was a bunch of stuff going on. I mean, Derek Carr in New Orleans, um, I mean, we talked about in our preview that um, Dennis Allen's that the coach's name, right? That he might be one of the first coaches to get fired, but I don't think he's going anywhere.
Nah, he ain't
I
going
think,
nowhere.
yeah, I think New Orleans looking really good. And it's not all about Derek Carr. I mean, because, their running back had 3 touchdowns. I mean, their defense is around top 5 or 6 defenses. I mean, they're running the ball. I mean, Derek Carr ain't putting up crazy numbers, but he's averaging 11.7 yards a reception.
He a little more
I
confident
mean,
this year.
yeah, and he's leading the league in that. And, excuse me, and he's leading the league in passer rating. Now he's only averaging about 200 yards a game, but I mean, I think he might have 4 or 5 touchdowns. But it's all about running game and defense. It's setting that up. I mean, they're a good. I won't have to say a well coached team. I mean,
They looking like
they're.
one of the best teams.
I know, and when we do our power rankings this week, we might have to sneak the Saints
Oh,
up in there.
definitely gotta be in there.
Because they went down and put a whooping on Dallas. And I think Dallas's big problem. Who was your running back last year in Dallas? What was his name?
Uh,
Dang, it was on a.
the
I was,
Tony Pollard.
yeah, Pollard. I mean, they let him go, and they got Ezekiel Elliott now. And we talked about this in our preview that we didn't think they had the running game. They didn't take care of that running room.
The man really
Um,
quit saying.
Yeah, because I mean Dallas is struggling. I mean they can't run the ball. I don't think. I think their leading rusher was 30 yards, and that wasn't. And I think Ezekiel Elliott had worse. I mean, than 30 yards, and then they're going against a running back that's got 100 and something yards rushing and 3 touchdowns. I mean, they can't control the ball. I mean, at all. I mean, and at least Pollard kept all the defensive honest. I mean, he could run. And I ain't saying he was the best running back in the
No,
world, but he could get you 60, 70, 80 yards. He was very opportunistic. I mean, I thought that was a big mistake letting him go,
yeah, that was.
especially without replacing him. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, because, I mean, Ezekiel Elliott, I loved him a few years ago, but he ain't. He's not the running back that's going to get you consistent yards. I mean, he just isn't. I mean, you get out on the goal line. I love him on the goal line. I mean, when he was in New England, he was scoring touchdowns at the goal line.
Yeah, short yard.
But
He gonna get
yeah,
you
short
yard.
yardage. Yeah, he's a good running back. But between the 20s, I'd like another running back. I mean, because Dallas got whooped.
Badly.
And what what did you think about it?
I love every minute of that Cowboy getting that butt spanked. I love every minute. I think the
Yeah.
Saints, they defense. I mean, their offense is potent. Their defense is still good, like I always been. Derek Carr, he
Mm-hmm.
just a little more comfortable. He might be, MVP conversation this year if he keep on.
Yeah, if he
They don't
keeps on.
score 47, 44 points. Alvin
Mm-hmm.
Kamara just around the backfield. They just look like a well-armed machine. I don't know what to change it from last year. I guess because like it's another year inside the system, they're more comfortable. But it's just something about the Saints this year.
Well, and I told you when we was talking about the season preview, I looked at the stats of last year. The last 5 games of the season, Derek Carr was the leader in most categories for
Mm,
quarterback. I
okay.
mean, last year. I mean, they struggled early in the year. And that was, and Derek Carr, I think, was getting his feet under him, had a new coach and all that. But the last 5 games of the season last year, Derek Carr was great. He was leading the league in yards and passer rating and everything, a lot of the major categories. So I mean, it don't totally shock me that he's came together right off the bat here. But I mean, he just looked like they're firing on all cylinders. Um, and their schedule's not tough at all. I think they got one of the easiest schedules of the year of all the teams. But but Dallas, I mean,
Ooh,
they're 1-1 now, and Baltimore is coming to Dallas
and
Sunday.
they're angry.
So and they're angry. So something's got to give. I mean, as you can honestly say, the last 2 or 3 years, Baltimore's been leading. Best record in NFL. Dallas has been right there last couple of years, and after this weekend, either Dallas is going to be 1-2, or Baltimore is going to be 0-3.
Seeing Baltimore 0-3, they're gonna look like that's shocking to me. Lamar
And
Jackson
that's
being let bad in the regular season.
right. And, I mean, and Dallas had a home streak of like 16 games they had won at home. And that was broken up this last week by the Saints. But, I mean, Dallas is always good at home. So I don't look for Dallas to sit down. I look for Dallas kind of be like Cincinnati was this week. They had a bad game. They're going to come back. Now, I ain't saying they're going to win, but I think that Dallas and Baltimore game could be the game of the week
They're missing
because
Dan
for
Quinn.
one, huh?
They missing Dan Quinn.
Well, I mean, it's, I mean, the Saints put the pounding the week before too.
Yeah,
I mean, it ain't like this is no big surprise. I ain't gonna sell out Mike Zimmer yet, and they still. I mean, their defense is leading in pressures. I mean, I think in 2 games they've had 40 quarterback pressures. But I mean, Saints just had such a running game coming in there, and then Dallas couldn't run the ball themselves. Because when you're a quarterback and you're having to carry the team, and you have to carry it passing, incompletions stops the clock. You're not running no time on the clock, and then you're giving it right back to a good running team, and they're going to run the clock, and they're just going to wear you down. They're going to beat you, and that's what happened. I mean, you want to say all these quarterbacks, if you look what's going on in them, there ain't no quarterback. He's got to have a good support of a running game and stuff. I mean, just to give you some balance so you can run some time of possession and stuff like that. And Dallas just don't have no running game. They don't have nothing. I mean, they need a running back so bad.
I thought they signed another running back on the free agency. Like
Well, the people are signed just ain't. I mean, I think, and I can't think of who the player was, but
he was
he
with
only
the
had 30. He only had 30 yards rushing.
what's his name? He played with the my dang, he's on my tip of my toe. He played with the Minnesota Vikings, then went to the Jets.
Hmm.
I know
And
they
you
signed.
might want, yeah, you might want to forgive him on that 30 yards rushing too, because Dallas fell behind so quick. So they're going to start passing and not running as much, trying to catch back up. But I think that Dallas made a big mistake
Was it
not
Devin Cook? Did
upgrading.
they sign Devin Cook?
It might be Cook. I mean, let me look and see who. Um, um, yeah, but I mean, I think they made a big mistake not getting running backs situation taken care of. I mean,
Yeah, Jerry Jones, he's sleeping on the job.
well, let's look at this. Yeah, R. Dowdell, who's that?
Who's it? Who?
I don't know. That's their running back. There's their leading rusher.
Who is that?
I don't know, but he had 7 carries for 30 yards. Excuse me, which ain't too bad. That's a little bit over a 4 yard average carry, which ain't too bad.
That
But
must be me when they say that about that Dalvin Cook. They must be
but
trouble.
and then when it seems like when Dak gets behind, he got to try to pass the ball, and try to force it. So, he was 27 of 39 for 290 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions because
Mm,
he's trying to, because that's what you're going to force to happen.
ain't that?
Uh, I mean, Derek Carr, 11 of 16 for 243 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, but that's with Kamara, who's the Saints' main running back, 20 carries, 115 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
Mm.
I mean,
That's
and
what
there ain't
it was
no,
a test.
there ain't no team in the league who wouldn't take that type of rushing production, and
I
that's the
would
way
take,
it's been
I
the
would take
first
the
couple of
15,
games.
them yard for the running back.
Right. Yeah, I think that's gonna come back to haunt them. That. So, what did you think about? Let's get to another game. What you think about the Kansas City Cincinnati?
Well, like I always can see, I always put out some magic. 'Cause we got the GOAT Mahomes. Joe
Mm-hmm.
Burrow played better than he did on the first, week. I really, hard on him about when he
Right.
played. I was disappointed, but he made a return. I know people talking about the little flag they threw on the throw that Mahomes did to get down there. But
Yeah, but
he
he
played.
obviously hit him before. I mean, there was a lot of noise on social media, but amongst all the experts and stuff like that and NFL players, I mean, he hit him a couple of seconds before the ball even got there.
Yeah,
So, I mean, you just can't do that. But, and that's what Mahomes does. I mean, if he's in trouble, he's going to force you to make the right play. And if you make the wrong play, you're going to pay for it. He's going to push you. And I kind of noticed, because even though Caleb Williams is struggling, because everybody says that Caleb Williams, reminds him, of Patrick Mahomes.
who said
You
that?
know, well, I mean, a few people's been saying that he's got that sidearm delivery sometimes, and he. But
You got
if you
trust
look like
him.
even that game last night, he wasn't having that great of a game because I mean they were just rushing him like crazy. I think there was 7 sacks on him last night, but he is drawing pass interference penalties. He is throwing it downfield because he had a couple last night, and I saw a couple in the other game. So it's still early for them rookies, so we ain't gonna get into them. But I mean, Kansas City is so good at situational football. I mean, when it comes 2 minutes to go, or the end of a half, or if they get behind what to do, I mean, they just got so many things. I mean, from experience, from their coaching, um, they're just so good at situational
It doesn't
sports.
matter what situation they in, whether they got a big lead or they got close by
Right.
where they down. They always
Hmm.
know it's fun.
And I mean Pacheco, he's going to be out for 4 or 5 weeks.
And
I
that
mean,
run game
they
right
said he's got a fractured fibula, so he'll be out 4 or 5 weeks. So we're going
It's
to
that
see
Hollywood
who's,
Brown out too, ain't it?
huh?
Hollywood Brown.
Yeah, Hollywood's out 4 or 5 weeks too. So they're
Mm.
both, you know, probably I would say week 6, week 7 for both of them.
Well, my home fit
But
aired out.
yeah, he's going to air it out. But I mean, I think Juju should be coming along pretty quick. Kelsey's got to pick up his game. I think he had 1 catch for 5 yards. I mean, and people are starting to say,
I think he gonna hang it up
yeah,
soon.
yeah, I think he's going to try to get to 3-peat because he is getting older. But but that's how Gronk was towards the end of his career.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't really great during the regular season, but those last few games, when they really meant something in the playoffs, he was back. And that's what Travis Kelsey was last year.
Yeah,
I think last year was the first year in like 8 or 9 years that Kelsey didn't have 1,000 yards receiving. But when the playoffs started, I mean,
we'll bring it back up.
he was everywhere, and that's the way Gronk was. I think as you get older, it's hard for you to get up
I
for
think they
them
choose their
early.
moments. I think they choose a moment when they really need to go all out.
Right, exactly. So so that now makes, I think, because Burrow and Mahomes, he was the only quarterback I think that was even close to having. They were 3-3 against each other.
Yeah.
Now Mahomes has the edge on that relationship, for lack of a better word. But yeah, but I thought Cincinnati did show up. The defense looked good. Mahomes threw 2 interceptions. So they were there to play. But at home, Kansas City, they're just hard to beat,
Yeah.
especially if you let them keep it close. They're just hard to beat. So, what other games stood out to you this week?
Well, main game stood out to me, like we were talking last week, is those Buccaneers.
Yeah, Tampa Bay.
Baker Mayfield top 10 right now.
Yeah, and I think him and Derek Carr are leading the league in most quarterback stats. Um, but yeah, they went down to Detroit, and I think they want a little revenge too because Detroit put them out of the playoffs last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think they want a little revenge too. But that Tampa Bay team is looking really, really good.
They
I
defense.
mean, so I think, I don't know how Atlanta's going to end up today. They could be 0-2 after this game if they lose to Philadelphia.
I think they will be.
But and it looks like that the Saints and Tampa Bay is going to be the division leaders,
We know
and
Carolina. They ain't. Well, they got Andy Dalton. They said they're training Andy Dalton, but
yeah, because Atlanta. I don't think Kirk Cousins is totally back yet.
he
And I
don't.
watched him.
He don't look right
I
on it.
watched him. Yeah, I watched him a little bit on this game here. He don't like he has a lot of movement because he's been most of his career. He moves and he throws it downfield and he gets that play action game going. Now they were totally in shotgun week one. I saw tonight he's under center a lot. Um, so I don't know if that's going to help him and get him moving and stuff like that. Coming out instead of backing up. You have to back up and move a little bit. Before you throw it downfield. I don't know if that'll help him, but he don't seem like he's quite recovered from that Achilles injury. Surgery and stuff, because he basically had the same thing that Aaron Rodgers did, and I don't think Aaron Rodgers looks quite as.
Nah, he not
I
that.
mean, because and they say that's at like an 18-month or so injury, because when Durant went down, um, and I always tell you when somebody has a strained calf, I think we've talked about this on podcasts before, you got to watch that Achilles.
Oh yeah.
And you look at McCaffrey in San Francisco. He was saying he has a tight calf and a tight calf, and now what are they saying? He's got a tight calf and his Achilles is really sore because they're worried about a strain or a tear. So they had to set him, because if they didn't, it seems like those injuries just go hand in hand. Once somebody starts saying their calf, and then Debo Samuel, they just announced a
Yeah.
couple hours ago he's going to be out 4 or 5 weeks. He's got a strained calf.
We see how the 49ers
So
special out them now for them 3 games.
yeah, right. So now they're going to be without Debo Samuel, and they're going to be out
Mm.
without McCaffrey.
Mm.
And Debo Samuel has been Brock Purdy's security blanket. Because I think he had like 11 catches or something this week in football, even though they lost. But
Shout out to the Vikings. Sam Darnold came back alive.
yeah, and he's part of that tree. He's part. Because he was in San Francisco, and now he's got his coach as part of that tree under Shanahan. They're good offensive coaches. There's something. Colin Cowherd constantly says he likes a quarterback to have an offensive coach, and that plays out correctly so much because, because you look at Caleb Williams, I mean, I don't know if you watched that game last night,
Oh yeah,
but I mean,
a snooze
they
fest.
sacked him 7 times. I mean, they couldn't run the ball. I mean, and they never moved the pocket. I mean, Houston hardly, they're one of the less blitzing teams in the league. But they came out blitzing like crazy yesterday
Oh,
because they knew Caleb Williams was just going to back up and try to throw. They should have moved that pocket, got Caleb Williams moving a little bit. I mean, for nothing else, for his life. I mean, because you know, you don't want a quarterback to lose confidence because we see what happens when a quarterback loses confidence.
yeah, he
Because
gonna
now
tear down.
you got number one pick last year or maybe 2 years ago. Um, Number one pick, they just benched him today. You know, the Carolina quarterback. I mean, once you lose confidence, sometimes it's hard to get that confidence back. And then now they benched him in week 2. I mean, well, how do you feel about that bench? And you know, in Carolina, how do you feel about that benching?
I think they did the right thing because it could like we already seen the first season how bad he was. Now we seen
Mm-hmm.
game 1, game 2, same thing, and he confident gonna
Mm-hmm.
keep going down, down. So I think they're just gonna sit there and put him on the bench, let him watch from the bench, let Andy Dalton go out there and do
Yeah.
his thing. And I think they need to let him grow a little more. I think they start him way too early. They gave it to him.
Yeah.
They should let him grow. I saw Tom Brady talking about that. He said like they don't let quarterbacks sit no more like they used to, like he did his
Right.
first year.
And that's why they struggle. I mean,
You got to
and
do. Oh, go ahead.
I I do like the fact that they do have Andy Dalton.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's a you know, and I mean he's never been no superstar, but he knows quarterbacking and stuff like that enough that um the kids should be able to learn something from him.
He was good a couple
But
years. Yeah, though he was good a couple years.
yeah, I mean, he was really good for a couple of years. But yeah, I think he's a good veteran, and maybe you know he should have been in last year instead of starting him because you
It
know
was,
I mean he's in that small quarterbacks don't do great. I mean, and you know, we talk about um, our small quarterbacks right now. Jaden Daniels, I think he's the best of the rookie quarterbacks right now
yeah,
because the main reason is he's hyper athletic. I mean, he like Caleb Williams, he'll probably run from him and stuff like that. But Jaden Daniels, you get him to running, it's gonna be a highlight play. I mean, he, I think he might, you know, if he don't get, he did get hit hard one time yesterday against the Giants, and I kind of thought about his size and stuff, but he's so hyper athletic. I mean, now he's not burning it up on passing touchdowns and stuff, but he seems like he's running the offense,
I think they'll come like
and
touchdown. He'll come.
yeah, and I think he's doing the best of the rookies. Caleb Williams, I just don't think he has. I mean, that offensive line is in terrible shape, and he's taken a beating so far.
What about Bo
Bo
Nix?
Nick, Bo Nix, I mean, he was a little bit better this week, and I think you know their coach. He's an offensive mind. They say he's an offensive genius. I think he'll start to get something out of him. But Jaden Daniels, I mean, he's so athletic. I mean, he's like hyper athletic. And you got to be careful even how you rush him because if you give him a lane, he's gone. Um, so, I mean, I think he's definitely the best rookie out there. So I kind of feel bad for the Carolina and
I do
you know,
feel
having to bench the
bad for him.
quarterback.
They should just let him the first season just bench him and just let him sit because
Hmm.
Carolina just so they not running right. The owner he just full of it. The team never been that good since Cam left. I mean, he's a bad
Yeah,
man.
and I do think they're jumping the gun a little bit because Carolina ain't going nowhere this year.
No,
You should have just left him in there a few more weeks anyway, and just seen if he can turn it around. I mean, I don't think they should be pulling him after week 2 because he did give him a whole season last year. Um, but I mean, they're allowed to have the number one pick again, and
I
if
hope he leaves.
a quarterback's sitting there, I mean, they're going to probably pick. I mean, they're really affecting his career. I think they've mismanaged him.
If he goes to another team, he'll be okay. Like Baker, I think he needs another team. He needs to get out of that bad situation, Carolina. He need to help
Mm-hmm.
cut him or something so he can go to another team and get another chance. Because Carolina is not a good place for him.
Right. I don't think so either. I just don't think they're a well-ran organization, and they definitely. And I'm starting to worry about Chicago and Caleb Williams.
Chicago, same
I
way. They're
think.
good quarterbacks.
I think Denver, they're a good defensive team when they're running the ball and stuff, and they're not trying to. I mean, and their games have been close. They're not trying to force Knicks to win the game for them right now. They're just letting them develop. So I think he's kind of protected by the coach. Jaden Daniels, I think
Hold on, my bad. Hold on. Somebody call me.
Jaden Daniels, I think they're treating him right, and I think they have a good defensive team. And like I said, he's hyper athletic. I hope he don't get hurt because I like to watch him run and stuff. I think he's going to be kind of special. Let's hope he can stay healthy and not take a beating. What other games stood out to you this weekend?
Well, we already covered that game. I will say about the 49 Vikings, but we already covered it because they're the Raiders. The Raiders and the Ravens.
Oh, yeah, the Raiders.
Ravens.
The Raiders went down to the Ravens. I mean, and Minshew is one of the leaders in the NFL in passing right now for the first 2 weeks.
Garner Minshew.
He's right there with Derek Carr and Baker Mayfield. He's leading in a lot of categories. He's averaging, I think, like 270
he's not bad.
yards a game. So, I mean, I think he's a decent quarterback. And they got Devontae Adams. I mean, it makes it a lot easier when you got someone like Devontae Adams to throw to.
One of the top 3 wide receivers.
Yeah, and it's just like Minnesota. It makes it a lot easier when you got Justin Fields, who already had a 97-yard touchdown this week.
Man, that was crazy.
I mean, it makes life a little bit easier when you got somebody to throw to. I mean, and I think that's one thing that's hurting Caleb Williams is that receiver from San Diego hasn't played yet. What's his name? Starts with a K.
They got the Chargers.
From the Chargers. He's been there for a few years. I can't think of his name. But he still hasn't played yet. And I think he'll be like a security blanket. Huh?
Is it Keenan Allen or somebody else?
Yeah, it's Allen. And that's going to give Caleb Williams a little bit of a security blanket, somebody he can trust and throw to. Because I don't think he really has that yet on the team. I mean, he's got some decent receivers, but you get him in there, and I think he'll be a good mentor for Caleb Williams and somebody he can depend on. And I want to segue. Now we're talking about San Diego. What about them Chargers? Jim Harbaugh, 2-0.
Ooh, they looking dangerous right now, boy.
All right. And, and who's leading the league in rushing?
Oh, J.K. Dobbins?
No. Well, I don't know what his personal stats are, but the Chargers are the number 1 rushing team in the league right now. Oh, my God. How did that happen? I mean, we would have never thought it with Jim Harbaugh, huh? But he's already got that team working on being his identity. We know his identity. So, I mean, they did play Carolina this week. I mean, and they beat them like 28-3 or something, 31-3. I mean, he's running the ball. He's playing defense. I mean, that's a Jim Harbaugh coach team. I mean, they're looking at already. So they're allowed to be dangerous. And, and you think, huh?
You said the Rams went down?
Yeah, Cooper Kupp.
I'm talking about how they just lost, period.
Yeah, and Cooper Kupp's hurt again now. He's going to be out a few weeks.
Cooper Kupp hurt again?
Yeah, and he had 11 receptions yesterday. I mean, I think he's got more receptions than any receiver in the NFL so far, but then he got hurt again. He's going to be out for a few weeks. So, and he's only played like I think he's only played like 11 games in the last 2 seasons, and we thought he was back. Cause we even talked about that last week, but he's hurt again now, so he's going to be out for a few weeks. So I'm going to have to, because I thought they could challenge for that division, but I think Minnesota is looking good. And I think the Cardinals. I mean, why do I keep forgetting about the Cardinals?
They creeping in
Kyler,
now. They might have the chance
yeah,
to take the division now, but for now, fall.
yeah. I mean, and they have a good defense. And Kyler Murray, I think, had a perfect quarterback rating yesterday, like 17 of 21 for 200 something yards, 3 touchdowns.
What about that
I
rookie?
mean, and the rookie finally woke up. I mean, and Kyler Murray said in the media early in the week, he said, "It ain't my job to make sure somebody gets reception." But then this week, bam, 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 he had like 130 yards in the first quarter.
They calling though, probably.
And I think, and we talk about that. He had 130 yards in the first quarter, but he still needs to work on his route running, because if it wasn't deep, he wouldn't do it. He's got to work on his own, because his dad was really good. I mean, a 5-10 yard reception, then he could go deep too. I mean, he was really good with that. And so I think, and he's just a rookie. I mean, and I think with the way people play in the preseason now, I mean, because Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, I mean, everybody looked great during the preseason, but when the live bullets started to fly, and I mean, the quarterback's only averaging 180, 190 yards a game the first 2 games of the season.
All quarterbacks.
And all quarterback, that's their average. They're like 180, 190. And I think one of the reasons for that is the defenses are more ready than the offenses are, because they don't practice. I mean, they're not practicing in the preseason like they used to. So it's taken a little while for an offense to, like any of these offenses, aren't as good those first couple of weeks.
Defense all about studying and effort. Beyond the wish.
Yeah, I mean, and athleticism. And there's so many good defensive players, and one thing you can bank on right now is kickers. I mean, 55 yards to 60 yards, they're all booting them now.
Man, them kickers is hitting stuff I ain't never thought that hit before. They could hit it like that back in the day.
Right. And I think the defenses, I think they're the best athletes on the field. I mean, they're just so fit and ready to play. I mean, and they're tough. Right now, the first couple of weeks, besides Derek Carr, and he's breaking out because of his running back. I mean, besides that, I mean, Tua, he was looking like his old offensive self.
But I got cushion. He looked like Tua.
Yeah, well, I don't want to say that, but I mean, he had like week 1, he had like 338 yards passing, and he was probably on his way to get that in week 2, but then he got hit, and Tua,
he did it to himself though, John.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a slide. You got to live to play another game. I mean, yeah. So I mean, and we're not even talking about the Buffalo game. I mean, and we talked about that last week. I mean, Buffalo going to Miami, and we're saying this could be Miami's year, and then Buffalo just went in there and tore them up. I mean, just so physical, and there wasn't nothing they could do with them. I mean, and then Tua got hurt, which added insult to injury. And he's dead. And I haven't got a final word on if he's even in concussion protocol, or I think they're gonna.
I think he's gonna miss
maybe
because they signed.
I think they might set him out for the year just to make sure he's healthy, and then let him think about it.
Yeah, Huntley pretty straight though. He decent, Huntley.
Yeah, but you look at. I mean, they were throwing out so much money to quarterbacks. I don't think every quarterback, whenever like the next quarterback that's up to be paid, why does it have to be the highest paid every time? They need to do something about it. Because you look right now, Tua, one of the highest paid, we don't even know if he's going to be able to make it. I mean, you got the Prince down in Jacksonville, what you call him, the Prince, right? I mean, they're 0-2. I mean, you got Jordan Love. He's hurt. He's out. I mean, Dak Prescott. They could be 1-2 after this week against Baltimore. So what are you paying for? I mean,
You know, like what Mahomes doing, he the only person that deserves them kind of contracts. Patrick,
right. I mean, and Burrow, you look at all the quarterbacks besides Mahomes, um, he's leading the league in playoff wins. Burrow. So, and everybody, say, why do y'all always say good? Because he's really performed. He's got 5, and I think Dak Prescott's got 2 playoff wins. Lamar's got like 2 or 3. Out of all those, besides Patrick Mahomes, active quarterbacks right now, Burrow leads in playoff wins at 5.
The only 2 quarterbacks earned their money, and that were Patrick Mahomes and Matthew Stafford. They're the last 2 won Super Bowl as quarterback.
Yeah, and like I said, Burrow's got those playoff wins. I mean, he's actually showing up and
He went to
accomplishing
Super Bowl.
because
He went to Super Bowl.
yeah, and he knocked out Patrick Mahomes in the AFC title game. So I mean, he's actually performed, and he's right around the 48 million, something like that. But I don't understand why every quarterback's got to reset the market. They got to be the highest paid at that moment, because I mean that just don't make no sense to me. Now, Dak, I think I would have paid him, not only because he's been there for 9 years. He's the face of the franchise. They're coming to see him, and there wasn't no better alternatives.
Yeah, I think that deserves him money just because the situation he's in.
Now, and I think right now they didn't even address the running back and stuff. He has no help. He's got to pass for it. I mean, that's going to come back to haunt them. And we've already discussed that and established that. But I mean, I just don't. Why does every player have to reset the market? I mean, it don't make no sense for now. I think, because McCollum's has been restructuring his contract and stuff, and none of those other quarterbacks are going to restructure their contract to help.
Mm-mm.
So because I think technically Patrick Mahomes is about the 2nd or 3rd highest paid quarterback, but he's been restructuring his deal, restructuring, so they can get salary cap relief. And
I don't think he's top 10 no more, John.
Huh?
When I seen it, they said the high paid quarterback like salary each year, he's not even top 10 no more.
No, and that's silly. Because I mean, you got somebody who's got 3 Super Bowl rings already, maybe finna have 4.
Exactly.
I mean, and then you had 3, 4 quarterbacks that you ready to pay more. I mean, it just don't make no sense. And like I said, you got Tua just got paid, probably out. You got Jordan Love out. You got the Prince down there in Jacksonville, 0-2. You got Dak, could be 1-2 after this week. So, I mean, I think to pay that type of money, there's got to be something established there. Burrow, when he comes up, I think he should be paid because he's got 5 playoff wins. He's actually not just a regular season quarterback. He plays better as the season progresses, and that's the way it should be. I mean, I think he's got the most talented out of all of them. Got more playoff wins, so you got to give it to him. Yeah, but I'm really aggravated about that quarterback thing. I really feel sorry for Tua. I mean, I do agree. I don't think he helps himself because you got to learn to slide. You can't take those big hits because, I mean, you're not as big as these defensive players, and just a simple running into somebody's knee can really hurt and cause you a concussion. I mean. So I mean, you have to be careful.
Something right there. You can't like take a hit and hit your head off something. You just I'm in the player that take them hits. You can't take now. You should be playing football.
And especially when you already got a history, because once you start getting that concussion history, I mean, your body starts to react different. I mean, that's one history a football player really don't want is to start getting concussions. Because I mean, just a simple hit for most people can actually ring your bell a little bit because I mean you're not as strong up there anymore. I mean, I ain't gonna call the head or the brain a muscle, but it kind of is because if it takes a couple of injuries, it's just not as strong as it was. That's just reality, and you're susceptible. I mean, and I mean he's got kids and a wife, um, and I think if he was to retire, I think he would get 125 million of his contract.
I think he should retire though.
Oh, I hate to, I think that's his decision. Now, if I was him, I would take my 125 million and be gone
I actually agree
because,
with you. I actually agree with that. After them being concussion, I mean, he gonna get another one.
yeah, right, yeah, he's going to. I mean, it's coming. Why risk? Because you're getting to the situation now to where I mean it's going to affect your quality of life. You're going to be 40 years old and your brain's going to be scrambled. Um, I mean, you got to think about your family. You might, I mean, like I said, if he retires now, he gets 125 million of that money. So, I mean,
I
he'll
think
never
he
have to
should
worry.
retire. Yeah,
Yeah, he'll never have to worry about anything.
help your little baby brother get in the NFL. Help him, help him be a better
Right.
quarterback. You still got your little baby brother to look after and stuff. He can get in there.
Hmm.
You know,
I know he's got a couple of kids and a wife, and um, yeah. I mean, if it was me, I'd retire.
yeah.
Because he's already made some money, and he just got a new contract. And like I said, 125 million if he walks away right now. He'll get that much of his contract. So,
You gotta look at that
you
hit
know,
wasn't even that bad. Like you ran into Darman Hamlin. And then that's who it was. He already almost got killed on the field. And you ran
yeah,
into
and Hamlin's had a couple of plays with quarterbacks this year
he
where
didn't try,
they've got a concussion.
he didn't try to hit you. You just bumped into him. You just laid down.
Right.
He just slowed
Yeah.
down. He wasn't trying to hit you, to be honest.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
I believe he thought he was
so,
gonna slide. I believe he thought he was gonna slide. He trying to slow it up a little bit. He won't get no penalty.
yeah.
Tua went into him like, bro, what you doing? Why you ain't slide?
Hmm.
You not? Don't you know you got history of doing this stuff? Concussions.
Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, I feel really bad for him, but I would go ahead and take my money and run and retire. I mean, because I think he's just had too many. And they're being really quiet about everything. I mean, usually they've already came out and said how many weeks he's going to be out and all that stuff. Because I think they're waiting for an answer whether he's going to play or retire or they're going to
It said
sit
they
him
ain't
for the
talking about how
year.
hard, but I think he real contemplating, retiring. I believe
Yeah,
he giving the thought. The doctor, I know the doctor told
yeah, right. Yeah, I mean they're thinking he should. I mean, because you know what the doctor is going to lean to the side of caution. But yeah. So any other games stick out to you this week?
yeah, what we got here? We always talking about how Aaron Rodgers made a little win right there now. He finally got on the board 1 for 1. Well, I mean, the Titans really ain't nobody to really brag about being against, but the Jets did get a win. They get some
Mm-hmm.
confidence, so this for them to move forward and stuff like that. Aaron Rodgers, he looked pretty decent out there. He didn't look like Aaron Rodgers like all back together though, but he got them a win. So
Yeah,
I mean,
and he don't look like he's totally back from that injury. Um, and I think this Thursday night they're at home against the Patriots.
yeah,
So I mean,
yeah.
they could be 2-1 pretty easily
You don't
coming
have to.
out of week 3. So I mean, but the Patriots, I mean, they don't seem to be no joke.
I would say defense
Uh,
gonna the Patriots gonna play on hard because the Patriots look way more competitive on them on the him
yeah,
Bill Belichick.
yeah. I mean, and they're physical and they're running the ball and they're really and they're doing all the fundamentals good.
Mhm.
I mean, so they're going to be a tough out. I think, if I look around the NFL, I think the two toughest outs this year that I don't think is going to win no Super Bowl will be the Patriots, and the Raiders. I think they're both of them teams because, I mean, the Raiders,
I
I
like the
think
Vikings.
Antonio, I
The
think
Vikings.
Antonio Pierce is coaching them. Yeah, the
Oh,
Vikings too. And because they got that offensive, minded coach who's part of the Shanahan. tree, and then that quarterback was in San Francisco for a little while, so he really knows that West Coast system. And plus, it helps when you got Justin Fields to throw to and that defense. So let's say that
Jefferson.
Jefferson, I mean, and but that's the three toughest outs. I'll say the Patriots because they just so fundamentally sound, and they're gonna and they're opportunistic, running the ball, good defense. I think the Raiders, they have a good, they got Crosby on defense. They got a pretty good defense. Plus, I mean, because they held, Baltimore down to 21 points. I mean, and I think Lamar Jackson had 200 something yards passing, and Derek Henry had like 90 yards rushing, and they still held them to 21 points. So they got that bend, don't break defense, and I think Crosby, he's a star. You always got to worry about him. And then you got Devontae Adams that can make your quarterback look really good. And I just think they're a sound team. So I would say the Patriots, the Raiders, and Minnesota. Ain't nobody going to really want to play them, especially on a bad week. They could beat anybody at any time. So
sure
I'm not going to put – I would have put at the beginning of the season, if you would have asked me who was going to be the scariest teams, I would say – I would have said Arizona, but to me, Arizona is at another tier up. They're actually, because, you got to think, they threw a big lead on Buffalo week 1.
And they had
then Buffalo did come back, but they came out the same way in week 2, and that team didn't come back.
They ain't no fluke either.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and I think I'll have to agree. I mean, Marvin Harrison, he's become a better possession receiver and not just think about the deep ball. And I think the same thing for Worthy, because Worthy can't just think about the deep ball. You got to get that 10, 15-yard zone, I mean, you got to look at that zone and try to become good at that too. But yeah, I think they're the scariest teams. Not scariest, but the ones you better pack your lunch when you go there because they're not going to be an easy out. Arizona, I think, could be the surprise of the year, along with the Saints. And you think, I mean, they New Orleans got a new offensive coordinator this year. He's a Kubiak. So I mean, so that Kubiak name knows quarterbacks and stuff and offenses. So I think that's another reason why that offense is looking so good. I think Dennis Allen probably made a good choice. And if you're a defensive coach, I don't think there's nothing wrong with being a defensive coach. But if you're going to be a defensive coach, you better get a good offensive coordinator. Somebody who can run that offense for you and run it right. Because that's probably going to be a coach saving decision, is getting Kubiak to run that offense. So, all right. Well, that's a recap of week 2. We'll see y'all later in the week, and we'll probably talk about some of the bigger games or whatever. And of course, the power rankings, which I think is going to be real interesting this week.
It's going to shake all the time. Ain't going to be the same one.
It's definitely not going to be the same ones because, who we got out? I'm going to say Dallas is out of top 5.
Oh, yes. They most definitely.
I think Buffalo would be in. I think New Orleans would be in.
I'm taking Philly out. Actually, I'm taking Philly out. Where they playing?
Are they losing now?
They ain't losing 10-9, but it just, I mean, I didn't know they had AJ Brown. I didn't know he was hurt.
Yeah, he's hurt.
So I mean, they ain't looking like the team from last week. The first,
Well, I mean, Saquon Barkley kind of took over that game.
Yeah,
I mean, new team and all that, and he was all excited. And don't forget, everybody's talking about. I mean, everybody was saying how good Jordan Love and Green Bay is going to be this year. Don't forget, I mean, they barely made it into the playoffs last year. They might have beat Dallas in the playoffs, but who don't beat Dallas in the playoffs? I mean, let's be real. I mean, let's be real. So, I mean, they squeaked in. But and we talked about this in an earlier podcast too. Um, I think CJ Stroud in Houston's got a better situation
Mm-hmm.
than Green Bay does. I think CJ Stroud is for real.
He legit. I saw him play last
He,
night. Ain't that boy good?
yeah,
It one
he's
pass.
really good.
I'm like, when he was scrambling to the side, he threw that pass. I'm like,
Hmm.
ooh, that's my
Yeah,
home.
he's got every throw in his arsenal. I mean, and they got a good team, a good roster, and I think he's got another Diggs. Is there now, and he had that 21-yard reception I
Up,
saw.
she was good to the Marco Collins. That boy is.
Yeah, right. But CJ Stroud, he's got every throw in the book. I think he's for real. I think he's going to be around for years to
He
come.
might be my home new rival. He might be the one.
Yeah,
Him.
he might be the one. You might be right. But yeah. So I think he's for real. So I would have to, I don't know. Green Bay did win yesterday with their backup quarterback, but I don't think they're going to keep winning. Huh?
I know we're on the coast, and the Richard was horrible. 3 picks.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to keep winning. So without Jordan Love, yeah. So I mean, and that's why because Houston last year they won their division. I mean, they wasn't no joke all year. They were good. I
I think
mean,
this year too.
and I mean, last year Green Bay, Jordan Love stunk up the place first 7 or 8 weeks, and he started to get his rhythm. They've squeaked into the playoffs, but Houston looked dominant from all year. I mean, because CJ Stroud, he's for real. I mean, I'll say it right here on Two Top Sports. He is one of the future quarterbacks. So I
Mm-hmm.
will say now Jordan Love, I think he'd go either way. Um, but yeah, I think CJ Stroud's for real. And I watched him last night, and Houston didn't have a great game yesterday because they should have just blew Chicago off the field.
I didn't realize they had to do too much last night.
Yeah, but CJ Stroud, he didn't look like he was struggling or anything. He was making all of his throws. I really like him. All right. So we'll go ahead and sign off right now, and we'll see you later in the week.